Do you want to party? Because it's party time. Hi folks, Dustin for Music the Lifeblood here. Welcome to Vinyl Thursday. So, a long time ago, when Vinyl Thursday was still a wee baby, I did an episode on the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack. I love it. It's amazing. I listen to it still on a regular basis today. Time went on. I knew I wanted to revisit it, had some more things I wanted to talk about from a musical standpoint, and I've acquired another kind of crown jewel as it relates to part of my vinyl collection that I definitely wanted to show you guys on top of some other releases that sort of surround and orbit it as well. So, a couple things worth noting. Number one, I'm going to go over all of the soundtrack and the score in the order that it appears in the movie, just to make it a little bit easier. If you guys want to, watch along or something, you can pause it once you get to the song, watch a little bit of the episode. I know none of you are going to do that, but in my mind, it sounded like a cool idea, but whatever. So we're going to go over it in the order it appears in the movie because there is a little bit of fuckery as it relates to a couple of the songs. Worth mentioning because the original theatrical release versus the original VHS release versus the later DVD and Blu-ray releases of the movie, there's a lot of weird stuff as it relates to not only the musical score, the soundtrack, but also some of the audio in the movie. There's an instance of, everybody knows Tar Man. He was the zombie that came out of the barrel of 2,4,5-trioxin, that his voice has been changed over time. I guess to make it more menacing or whatever the case, I thought it sounded great originally, but there's just a lot of neat stuff and minutia as it relates to this soundtrack to talk about. So here it is, the Return of the Living Dead Redux episode of Vinyl Thursday.
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Oh, fuck!
The quick and dirty version is that 1985's The Return of the Living Dead has become a tentpole release within the zombie horror genre. Now, the neat thing about it is that it eschewed and pushed away the Romero tropes as it relates to zombies. The Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Romero's zombies were slow, shambling, couldn't get to where they were going too quickly. And in The Return of the Living Dead, these zombies are capable of sprinting after you in pursuit of food because they want to eat your brains, because apparently eating brains reduces the pain of being dead, which in and of itself, if you think about that for a few minutes, is horrifying. The idea that when we die, you're aware that you're dead, on top of it really, really hurts and is extremely uncomfortable. That is a goddamn horrifying thought to me, which I don't know if any of you have went that direction with this movie, but think about that for a few minutes because it's nightmare fuel, especially for people that are afraid of being buried alive, which, yikes, serpent in the rainbow kind of stuff. Anyway, one of the things that I absolutely love about The Return of the Living Dead, past the score, the soundtrack, is that the ensemble cast is what really gives this movie a lot of its charisma. That makes it compelling because of all the characters in here, whether it's the central group of punk rockers where most of the action is sort of centered around, you can identify with at least one or more, whoever, as far as the cast goes. And in that sense, it allows you to sort of project yourself into this situation. And one could imagine how absolutely terrifying of an experience this could be. And on top of that, too, as far as directors go, Dan O'Bannon, he worked on Alien, by the way. He had a pretty big hand in getting Alien off the ground, which I think, what is Alien? 1979, I think. I think it's 79. Sigourney Weaver, yeah, you guys know about Alien. Dan O'Bannon's a great writer, in my opinion. He doesn't get enough credit, especially for his film work, because his body of work isn't nearly as big as what you think it would be, but the stuff that he did work on, he definitely left a mark. And in and of itself, as far as him as a director goes, there's a lot of lore surrounding how he directed this movie, the way he handled the cast, all kinds of really, fascinating minutia as it relates to him clashing with some of the actors on the set and him being sort of a bit of a bull in a china shop as it relates to not a whole lot of nuance, it sounds like, with that guy as far as being a movie maker. But still, regardless of what you think about Dan O'Bannon, the movie is absolutely killer. It's a titan within the zombie horror genre. I would easily put this in top 3. And I'm a huge Romero fan, but Day of the Dead out of the original Dead trilogy is probably my favorite one, just because I like the arc of Bub, but I also like the arc of the Tar Man as well. So it's kind of like the Michael Jordan and Larry Bird of zombie movies as far as zombies go. But if you've never watched the movie, before we dive in to the actual soundtrack, I really think maybe hit pause on this, go watch the movie first, because man, oh man, it is absolutely killer. First up is TSOL's Nothing For You. Could be my favorite song on the album, I think. Maybe. Probably. But it was one of my first exposures to punk rock, and the song has absolutely clung to me since then. It's one of those songs where it's a bookmark in your head for something really, really important. I adore this song. But the weird thing about TSOL is that there was a time when TSOL didn't much look like TSOL. Singer and drummer leaves, new singer and drummer come in. Joe Wood, the guy that fronted TSOL at this time, great singer, awesome voice, has kind of a gravelly tone that Jack Grisham, the original singer, didn't have. Jack Grisham's voice sits in quite a higher register than what Joe's does. But it's still great either way. I think all of the TSOL catalog, regardless of who's running the band, is pretty badass. Members changed, and they put out a couple albums with Joe fronting the band. I think we have Change Today, Revenge, and some other stuff after that. And this version of Nothing For You, to me, sounds like the same recording that ended up on Revenge, but the version on Revenge, the mix is just, it's so frustrating because I want to like that album so much more than what I can because I feel like I have no choice. And what bothers me the most about that album is it's the snare sound. And I know I'm being nitpicky. I know I'm being so damn particular that it's going to sound like it's petty, but that snare sound on that album just absolutely freaking ruins it for me. Why you would put that much reverb on a snare and then put this heavy gate on top of it that doesn't allow it to ring out to where you can hear the room that the snare is being played in, or just the ability to kind of put a little bit of a smear across the mix, and it doesn't set right with my ears. And like I said, I know that sounds nitpicky and trivial and minute, that sort of thing, but I just cannot get past the snare sound of the Revenge album. I think it was such a terrible mistake in my opinion. But the neat version about Nothing For You on the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack is that it's, for lack of a better term, organically intact. So I guess you would call me a TSOL snare intactivist. Which, okay, I guess that works. But the song's amazing. There's an urgency about it as far as Joe's singing goes, what Mike Roche and Ron Emery are doing on bass and guitar. Just, it's urgency. The song has some urgency to it. Like it's now, today, there's a compelling, a forcefully compelling nature to it. It feels urgent, like something is going down right now. It's a very now kind of song. And like I said, one of my earliest exposures to punk rock, and it's one of those songs where it's this massive sort of pillar within my personal pantheon of music that, you know, it's one of the songs that I use as a watermark, or, you know, for how good great punk rock can truly be. Just an important song, I think would be the best way to put it.
My body's aching inside out, my nose is always cold. Am I still 24, or am I starting to grow? Am I growing old? Suicide is just a state of mind. Not for me, I got places to hide, day to day, nights awake, yeah, stealing is my way of life. I got to pay my bills today, when I leave my night.
Next up is the Trioxin theme, which, as far as theme music goes to a movie, it definitely sticks with you, melody and harmony wise. You know, the mark of a good theme song or a jingle, you know, something that's going to stay with you, you know, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. But it stays with you. Like I said, it's got a stickiness to it. And the weird thing about this is that it's credited to Francis Haynes in, I think, every version release of the movie that I've seen. But once in a while, I see Matt Clifford's name come up beside it. Now, maybe it was an engineer, maybe did some production work. I'm not 100% for sure. I've been casually looking, you know, to see what the exact involvement of the guy was, because his name does pop up around this movie on a fairly regular basis, and I haven't turned up anything substantial. Could be a bunch of internet fuckery, who knows. But I think of the Trioxin theme as it relates to the 80s was a decade that brought us Coil's Scatology, Ministry's Twitch, and I think beyond this just being a theme song to a movie that it's going to worm its hooks into you, I think the neat thing about this is that just from an overall composition standpoint, I feel like it can run the race with some of the Ministry and Coil catalog to a degree. You know, I don't know that I would want an entire album of stuff that sounds exactly like the Trioxin theme or always in that sort of mode of songwriting, but the song in and of itself is competitive of what was going on elsewhere in the, you know, early electronic industrial scene, but I don't know that I would call the Trioxin theme overt industrial per se. I don't know that I would call it that, but the interesting thing about it is that there's a lot of guitar in the song, and eventually there'd be a whole lot of guitar in the Ministry catalog. So they do have things in common. Now, Is it a good theme for the movie? Yes. I think it's damn near perfect as far as movie themes go. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with it being able to worm its hooks into you. It sticks with you. The fuckery I mentioned earlier. So, next up, there's a scene where we're introduced to Suicide. He's kind of the Omega level punk out of the group of friends. He's the ride. Which I've been in that position when I was young. There was times where the only reason I got a phone call is so I could give everyone a ride somewhere because, when you get your license, earlier than some of your friends, it is what it is. So I can identify with Suicide in that regard. But there's some weirdness happening at this part of the movie versus the theatrical cut versus later cuts, VHS, Blu-ray, DVD, blah, 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 blah. And we get two different songs in different versions of the movie. The first is Straw Dogs, a song called Young Fast Iranians. And then The Damned, a song called Deadbeat Dance.
Where the fuck are we going anyway?
The party! To pick up Freddy!
Oh, yeah, what the fuck is Freddy up to these days anyway?
He got himself a job.
Oh, no shit. What job?
He's a stockroom clerk.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a shitty job.
Well, it isn't the President of the United States, but at least he makes enough money to buy stuff.
Oh, yeah, maybe you'll buy something from me, huh?
He don't like your stuff Suicide.
How come you guys only come around when you need a ride someplace? Got you one motherfucker from you think I'm spooky, huh? What the fuck? Going anyway?
To party! To pick up Freddy!
Oh, yeah, what the fuck is Freddy up to these days anyway?
He got himself a job.
Oh, no shit. What job?
He's a stockroom clerk.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a shitty job.
Well, it isn't the President of the United States, but at least he makes enough money to buy stuff for
Oh,
it.
yeah, maybe you'll buy something from me, huh?
He don't like your kind of stuff Suicide.
How come you guys only come around when you need a ride someplace? Got you one motherfucker from you think I'm spooky, huh? What the fuck?
If you're going to talk about Straw Dogs, you need to talk about the FUs because that's who the Straw Dogs used to be. As the FUs, they released a small body of work, 3 releases, I believe, between 1982 and 1984, and then they decided, hey, let's do something a little bit different, and they became Straw Dogs. It's great. Now, as the Straw Dogs, there's another handful of releases, but the song Young Fast Iranians came from their self-titled release. It's metalish, at least compared to what they were doing as the FUs. And at the time, I think there was a reviewer, I believe it was at Maximum Rock and Roll, that had some negative things to say about the band. And, in my opinion, I don't necessarily think somebody calling your music shitty at Maximum Rock and Roll is a bad thing because I don't like them. I don't think I ever have. It just seems elitist and shitty. Kind of like Rolling Stone, which is the same reason I don't like Rolling Stone. So if they don't want to like you, that's fine by me. It doesn't bother me one bit. But Straw Dogs are an awesome band. They had a handful of really, really great releases, which we'll check out my copy of the self-titled that Young Fast Iranians is on as well. But this song in and of itself, killer. And I think it definitely boosts the chaotic nature of suicide as a character in the movie. It's a great song for this scene because it, kind of gives it that punctuation point to the scene. But if you're going to talk about, the Straw Dogs catalog, if you're going to look into anything, if you're curious about them, there's an album called We Are Not Amused. If you were going to listen to any one thing, I would listen to that album. It's great. Now, in other versions of the movie, you're going to get Deadbeat Dance by The Damned. Interesting song. Looks like it was a one-shot recording to specifically get this on the album. It came around the time that the band was working on Phantasmagoria, which, if you compare Deadbeat Dance versus the stuff that wound up on Phantasmagoria, pretty dang interesting. The Damned have always been a versatile band in that sense that they can sort of phase in and out of punk rock and goth and death rock and even their romantic tendencies. They're versatile. They can do a lot of different things. And when you look at the arc of The Damned creatively, their punk rock-ness had been slowly sort of wafting away post Machine Gun Etiquette. And, between Strawberries and the Black Album and the stuff that came after that, it's really interesting because you can see throughout the Damned's lifetime that they have different epochs of time that are different, almost different iterations of the band. They have a musical identity that's, it's almost like they can take a mask off and put another one on. They have that ability to just move and change and shapeshift and things like that. And that even can depend on who's in the band at the time, whether Captain Sensible is playing with the band or Brian James early on, that sort of thing. They have sort of a multiple personality element to them, where you can't pin them down aside from, there's a little bit of a macabre and spooky nature and that sort of goth thing that the Damned have. That's the one constant thread that's woven through the entirety of their catalog. But Deadbeat Dance, it's a cool song. The Flesh Eaters, Eyes Without a Face. Now, the Flesh Eaters are interesting because it's the brainchild of Chris D, who's widely known for being a poet. His poetry work, it's great. It's amazing. Totally check it out. But I think he ought to be widely known for how boldly fucking nuts his vocals are on this song. It's just pandemonium from start to finish. It's craziness. There's no other way, it's just fucking nuts. The entire song. It's one of those times where, as a young person, the first time I heard it, what is this? What the hell is going on? And it's a really great example of that ubiquitous thing within punk rock of just not giving a single fuck about how it sounds, how you come off, just no fucks to give. Zero. None of them. And the neat thing about the Flesh Eaters, too, is that it includes DJ Bonebreak and John Doe from X. And if you've never checked out X, they're pretty rad. Give them a listen. Billy Zoom is an amazing guitarist. And he's got great hair. Kind of jealous. Not really. I'm okay being bald. Cuts down on the time I'm in the bathroom. It's efficient. But you do have to moisturize.
Lift up like a day, I split open with blood. Butter, muzzle, butter, my shoulders are trans. Operating grade, and drifted drop dead. Three straight rashes to a thumb. I kept going, and I didn't end. I didn't end, cause I could never ever end. I could never ever 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 end. Cause I've been turned around inside out. Loaded up in it, shiny eyes. I'm red like this into my veins. Any light on your beautiful voice. Come to the
SSQ. Weird band. Started out as an electronic dance pop duo and ended up being Stacy Q doing Two of Hearts.
Two of hearts that beat as one. Two of hearts, I need you.
SSQ have 2 albums, 37 years apart, which better late than never, I guess. The neat thing about tonight, we make love till we die. The neat thing about this song is that it's danceable. It is what it is. I could hear this playing in a goth club and everybody would go to the dance floor and do that sort of shuffling shoegaze thing that goth people do. That's fun. But it's hard to separate this song from the scene that it's in the movie because Linnea Quigley's white girl butt is very perky. So every time I hear this song, I think about white girl butt.
I know you think I'm nasty, but I am no common girl. I once slept with the devil, it was really no big thrill. The passion of the killers who lie awake for me. Just show me my own meaning of death and ecstasy.
Tonight, we'll make love till we die. Tonight, we'll make love till we die.
45 Grave contributed their song Party Time to the soundtrack. Now we get the very, very briefest glimpse of this version of the song post Trash's strip scene in the graveyard, where you just get a couple bars of the song real briefly. But it's a reworked version of the song as it appeared on their album Sleep and Safety, a little ways before the movie had came out. Now, this is going to piss off some punk rock purists, but to me, the mix of this version from Sleep and Safety that wound up in the movie is the superior version of the song. And I think a lot of it has to do with the mix. For whatever reason, I think it just came out better. I think it has quite a bit to do with the way Dinah Cancer's vocals blended a little bit better with Paul Cutler's guitar in this mix of the song. Jet Blackberries are kind of the odd man out on the soundtrack besides SSQ, but Trash's strip scene lends SSQ a lot of punk rock credibility and relevance and sort of allows them to blend in with the rest of the soundtrack. But what an odd band. They were originally known as New Math. They released an album called Gardens that Love Underwill was sourced from. Now, the weird thing about the Jet Blackberries is that they were in line with some of the other stuff that was happening at the time, like Modern English comes to mind, the punk rock thread, that was ever present around that time. And especially versus, what a band like Modern English was doing, because there is some punk rock-ishness to Modern English's sound. But I would put the Jet Blackberries more akin to early Sonic Youth and maybe the Pixies, the bands that would give way to the alt boom that went supernova right at the changing of the late 80s into the early 90s. They're an odd band, and especially they're another one of those bands where they've went through a name change, which that in and of itself creates an odd pivot point for bands artistically. When the name becomes something different, it's almost like you sometimes adopt a completely different musical identity. But the song is strong. But if you really want to hear the song fleshed out and a little more charismatic, I would go to the album Gardens by New Math. I would check out that version of it. It just feels a bit more lively. There's a little more of an organic quality to it. It feels like it's living and breathing in a way that the version that appeared on the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack does.
Yes, I have my will, no fatal trespasses for me. Tree still bears a fruit of gold, it's there for the taking. Oh, I rant and rave until I have no sense of time. Image of the future's just an image in your mind.
The Tall Boys, Take a Walk. Now, the Tall Boys are an interesting footnote in the English psychobilly, rockabilly, billy scene. Everybody thinks about the Meteors when you talk about English rockabilly. And yeah, you should. The Meteors are an important band, but I just don't understand why the Tall Boys don't come up more often within that scene of music and that crowd of people, because they're entirely too overlooked. Their catalog is small. You can fit all of it onto a CD. It's just, there wasn't a lot that they released, ended up doing other stuff, moving on, whatever the case is. But the thing I like about the Tall Boys is that relative to the rest of what has happened in the Billy scenes over the course of the ensuing decades is that they have a little bit of a distinction versus a lot of those other bands in that they don't have a stand-up bass. It's an electric bass, so they're not playing washboard style. And it gives it just a little bit of freshness that you may not get elsewhere in the Billy genre. And I think that's neat. It makes them stand out a little bit. Now, that lack of washboard style, I think there's a couple songs that it does appear on in their catalog. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and listen to it because it's been a minute. But they're not entirely electric bass, but the majority of their catalog is electric bass. How about that? But that little tweak versus the rest of what's going on elsewhere in psychobilly and rockabilly at the time, yeah, like I said, it gives them an edge. And if you're going to check out their catalog, check out a song called Final Kick. That sort of sums up what they're all about. And it's a hell of a song. It's like an anthem type song, which that's always a good feeling, whether it's big arena rock or punk rock or psychobilly, whatever the case is. If you can sing along to it, that's amazing. But check out Take a Walk. It's a good song. about this point in the movie, this is when things just go berserk. There's an actual line between Ernie Kaltenbrenner and Bert, the guy that runs the medical supply warehouse. Ernie's the mortician, by the way, that he says to Bert, I think things are getting out of hand. And it could not be more evidently so at this point in the movie. That thing, is just things are going nuts. It's going absolutely bonkers, berserk, haywire. It's pandemonium. And this is the point where the score to the movie, I differentiate between score and soundtrack, by the way. Soundtrack would be all the bands. The score would be the music that was composed specifically to bolster the action that was going on screen. Not that one doesn't do the other and vice versa, but anyway, not by a band. How about that? But the musical score really starts to emphasize what's going on screen emotionally. And I do say emotionally for a reason, because there is a charged atmosphere of anxiety and terror and all that kind of stuff that's happening on screen. And yeah, the score kicks into overdrive at this point. And I didn't really know what I wanted to put in this part, but I thought it was worth putting in that just the score begins to work in a way that it begins blending sort of seamlessly in and out through whatever the actors are doing on screen, and they start to work as kind of one in that regard. But impressive, super impressive score work. I don't know that there's much I can say about the Cramps that hasn't been said already. They're legendary. Period. End of story. But what I can tell you is that what I've always enjoyed about the Cramps is that their catalog utilizes sparse composition. They do a lot with very little. And one of the things that occurred to me really early on in discovering this song as a young person was that there's no cymbal crashes in this song. There's not a hi-hat. There's no ride cymbal. Nothing at all. It's just a bass drum, a snare, a little bit of tambourine, a little bit of maracas, shakers, those things. Ivy being Ivy, Lux being Lux, and they get the job done so fucking well. It's staggering.
Ooh, baby, your asphalt eater hung 10. The Hodads and Grammys say you reach top, and so do the dead. Through the lights, the surfing dead. Ooh, make it tight. The living dead now, baby, lose their heads now, baby, doing the dead. Had your high rev holler with a 4 on the floor, but your A-bones busted and you through the door, so do the dead. Juice the coupe, come on, the living dead. Ooh, you're in the soup. The living dead now, baby, like I said, now, baby, do the dead.
Trash's theme is a reworking of some of the chord progressions that are in SSQ's Tonight, which I think is neat. Gives a little bit of moodiness and spookiness to Trash's character arc, which she's more than just a prancing white girl butt, folks. She's a genuine brain-eating zombie queen. And I would not mind a 12-minute remix of this song to dance to in the club. That sounds fun. Not enough people know or appreciate Rocky Erickson. The short version is Rocky Erickson was a musician. He had schizophrenia, and he got locked into a pattern of psychedelic drug abuse, was hospitalized, was institutionalized, was abused with electroshock therapy, which is barbaric, in my opinion, and disgusting. His life fell apart. He was living in squalor, and eventually his brother got involved and helped him turn his life around, get him on a path to feeling better. And Rocky was able to release his last album and was in a much better place until his passing in 2019. You know, I think there's a lot of Rocky Erickson's story that it's a full-blown tragedy. But there were good things that came out of Rocky Erickson's life, and especially his output as a musician. Profound impact on a lot of people, me included. His story is very important to tell. If you get an opportunity that you can learn a little bit about Rocky Erickson and just dive into anything in his catalog, you will be reeling with how high of quality his body of work has. And it's an absolute shame that he endured some of the things that he had to endure because, like I said, there's parts of his life that were an absolute tragedy, which is just a shame when people that important creatively sort of get swept away into the criminal justice system or the abusive nature of the mental health system during the time that he was young. It's just, like I said, it's a tragedy. It's not fair, it's not right, but he was able to turn it around by the end of his life. And I think that's important. Kind of reminds me of my dad. You know, my dad struggled with alcoholism for a big chunk of his life. And I think he was sober, 5 or 6 years before he passed. And that's one of the things I'm most thankful for is that towards the end, everybody was able to have quality time with my dad. And that was very, very important for everybody in my family. Derek included, which you guys know Derek, he pops in on Conversations from the Pit quite a bit. Rocky Erickson deserves all the accolades and attention that he can get. And Burn the Flames is definitely a hell of a reason why.
So burn the flames higher and higher. So burn the flames, never to expire.
And here we are at the end of the movie. Again, 45 Graves, party time. This being the zombie remix version of the song. A little bit different lyrics that narrate the story on top of some zombie background vocals, which are hokey as hell, but still fun. I can dig it. I think about, as I've gotten older, I would hate to see my life without this movie. It's so damn important to me. The movie and the soundtrack. One of the things that has occurred to me as I've gotten a little bit older was just originally when you're young, you're like, oh, this movie's great. It's chaotic. It's got punk rock music. That's totally amazing. Ah. But one of the things that's occurred to me as I've gotten older is that there's a real sense of camaraderie in this movie. And I think it was an extension of the camaraderie that the cast felt with one another. And it comes through on the screen as far as the interaction between the characters. You know, I think about it's a bunch of punk rockers, but they're not all punks. Tina probably doesn't dress the same way that Spider does, doesn't listen to the same music that Scuzz does, but she's there hanging out with them, and when she gets in trouble, they all go to help her. Unfortunately, that's when Suicide dies, but still, everyone came to the rescue, Suicide being the one at the forefront of it. And that camaraderie, especially as you get older, you realize the important things in your life and the people that stick with you and stay around, especially when times are hard. That's where that camaraderie comes from in your personal life. And I think this movie is sort of a natural extension of that for me, which that's a cool thing to think about. You know, the idea that a movie set a good example for you even before you realized it. You know, that's a neat thing to think about, but man, oh man, I would hate to see my life without this soundtrack. 'Cause it is amazing. Time to talk about some of the variants of this soundtrack. Okay, so there's a handful of different releases of the official soundtrack, and then there's some counterfeits as well that I thought were just notable. I got to looking on Discogs, and I thought these were definitely worth checking out. So this first one, this is the CD release from Big Beat Records in the UK. This came out in 1985. What you'll notice a little bit different about it is that it's the Hands Up Zombie cover of the album. And then the back of it, I thought was interesting. Never seen this version of the back of the CD before. It's got the green, the yellow barcode. I just thought it was interesting. I'd never came across it prior to this. Didn't even know it existed. So that's kind of the neat thing about living, you know, in whatever country that you live in. There's always going to be different variations that come out, you know, across the pond in different countries, that sort of thing. And I think it's always neat to look at little tiny variations and how each country does things a little bit differently. But here's the inside of the booklet. Songs, credits for the movie, that sort of thing. And then this is the CD itself, which, you know, CDs around that time, I always make the joke that they're heavy. They're heavy like dinner plates because they're thick and they're heavier, made from different materials or thicker materials early on, that sort of thing. But I still thought it was a cool variation. And then this is a picture disc. This is from New Rose Records. This came out in France in 1985. pretty sure this is 230 gram as well. So that thing is thick as hell. They're able to do that because the picture's underneath the actual vinyl itself, which adds to the weight, obviously. But I thought it was interesting. I'd never seen this as a picture disc before. It's got a picture of Trash starting her strip thing. Then obviously you can see the Tar Man back there, who I think is at least supposed to be the Tar Man. And then there's the other side of it. It's the old lady zombie ghoul, the one that they're able to ask questions, see why the hell are you eating brains? And she's the one that sort of gives up the ghost and says it's painful being dead, which is a horrifying thought because that means that you feel the pain of being dead, which that in and of itself is terrifying. It's horribly terrifying. And then this one is a Big Beat Records release. Again, the Zombie Hands Up cover, UK 95. There's a white label with this one. So I'm wondering if these were promos. Couldn't find any information on that specifically. Generally, if there's no printing on a white label, oftentimes that tends to be a promo version of the album. And I had no idea this existed. But looks like, I'm guessing that's the back cover, I think. Hard to tell. The picture's not so great, but yeah, credits on the side, similar to the CD book, obviously. And then this was really neat as well. So this is a kind of a press release, I guess, that came along with this version of the album, which would make sense. If it's a promo album, then yeah, this totally makes sense that it would be in there with it. It's just a rundown of what's going on with the release, essentially tying it into the movie, that sort of thing, which I would love to be able to actually see one of these up close because, like I said, I had no idea this existed. And then this looks like a book that came with it. Couldn't find any other pictures of it besides what was on Discogs. So my guess is that there's not very many of these out floating around, and it would make sense. You have many less copies of a promo version of an album than you do a regular version. But yeah, this was really, really neat to come across. And then looks like it's the inside of the booklet, some illustrations. I've seen these illustrations pop up in a making of the movie featurette that I've came across. So this, I'm guessing this was maybe something to the tune of storyboarding, artwork, and or effects, mock-ups, so the artist and whoever was, creating all the zombie makeup and the prosthetics and just all that stuff for the movie. This was a makeup for them to kind of get a sense of the direction that they were going in for the special effects team. And then there's another page of the booklet. All really, really, really cool. Like I said, no idea prior to this that this was out here floating around. And man, oh man, would I love to actually check one out. So this next one, this is a cassette release. This is Enigma Records, US 1985. And it's got obviously a different cover, different, zombies. This is the hands up zombie, but shot from a different angle. The lighting is different. The colorization of the photo is completely different. But, honestly, between the two, I think I'd rather have the hands up zombie cover than this one, but still really neat to look at. And then this is the side of the cassette. Nothing really fancy there, but here is the card that went inside of the cassette. Details on the release, credits, that sort of thing. And then these are the cassettes themselves, which I like how bold that printing is on the cassette. I think that looks really, really neat. And then there's the side 2. Super cool. Don't know that I want that cover though. And then this appears to be a counterfeit. I'm not 100% for sure, but it does not seem to be an official release of the album. But obviously, an Obi strip on the left side there is a dead giveaway that it's probably out of Japan, which it is. I think, I have no idea other than that this came out in 1985. I don't know much about it. It could be official, but I've never ran across it before. I was genuinely surprised to see it, but could be official, battalion, that sort of thing. Yeah, it could be totally legit, but I don't know. I have no idea. But the cover of it was really interesting because it doesn't look like, a cover to the album I have ever seen. It's strange. And in my opinion, doesn't really keep up with the overall artistic vibe and direction of the movie or the other soundtracks that's been released. I think the neon thing sort of looks like the background to one of my elementary school pictures from the 1980s. But it's just odd. To me, it's just an odd release. And then here's the insert, which, cool. Totally looks like something that would have came out of Japan. And here's the other part of the booklet. Credits, looks like they're all in Japanese, probably. A couple pictures. And then the labels to the actual LP themselves I thought they were pretty neat looking. Never seen a blue like that for this album. It just sort of stuck out. I thought it was cool. But Victor Records, apparently they're a thing. Whoever that is, had no idea. You learn something new every day. And then there you go. There's the other side. Looks cool. Okay, so the version that I have that we're going to open up and check out here in a minute, that's a Real Gone Records. Real Gone, that's the record company. I don't know if it's just Real Gone Records or Real Gone, or I have no idea, but Real Gone put it out. And there's a butt ton of variants that had came out around this time it was released. So we're talking 2016. We did 750 green. That's what it looks like. And then 500 of the glow version. Bad picture. Again, it's the only picture I could find. It was on Discogs. I tried to find any internet marketing posts for this release, and I couldn't find much. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, but still, I mean, you get the gist from that picture. And then this is the red and black swirl. This is the version I have. That's not my copy, but it's the version that I have. Obviously, if it's a swirl, it's going to be completely unique. There's snowflakes because, when those stampers slam down and push those pellets in different directions and how they mush together, that sort of thing. Every single copy of the album it's going to be unique. It's not going to look like any other copy, but that's the run, one of the run that I have. And then I thought this one was super cool. This is a orange and green swirl. I missed that these were available around the time of the original release. I just didn't catch it. And I thought that one was really neat. Sort of I guess when it comes to the chemical that's in the barrel, that turns all the dead folks into zombies, 2,4,5 trioxin. In my head, that's kind of what 2,4,5 trioxin, a cloud of it, would look like. So I thought it was cool looking. Didn't even know it was out there. And then there's a gray swirl. And then this is the red and blue. There were 635 of these. This was the Newberry Comics exclusive. If I was going to pick up another copy of this release of it, this is probably the one that I would go after. I think it looks cool as hell. I think I have something similar in my collection to this sort of color scheme, and looks awesome in my opinion. And then this is the greenish blue swirl version. There are 330 of these. So that's on the more rare end. And then you have the green and red. And this is, as far as I can tell, this version, this pressing, the 2016 pressings of this is 300. And I think this is the one that had the least number pressed. And looks cool as hell. You know, you got that blood and zombie green swirl together. It came out really great. And I think with all these color versions too, the label with it being white and the red logo font for the movie stands out really, really well. I think as far as color schemes go, I would say this green and red one, and then that blue-green swirl, I think they most sort of striking as far as the color scheme goes. And then beyond that too, it's worth mentioning that there were other pressings later on that came from Real Gone in 2017, 2018, and 2020. I'm not going to dig into them, but they're out there floating around. Don't think as many were pressed as what the 2016 run was. I didn't look up the specifics, but just know it's out there floating around, and it's definitely something worth checking out. Yeah, I think Real Gone, they did the movie justice, in my opinion. These releases came out looking really, really great. All right, let's check them out. Okay, now as far as what's in my collection, I got a handful of things that I wanted to show you guys. But since we talked about 45 Graves so much in the opening segment, I thought it'd just be worth bringing this thing out because I think it's a really good release of 45 Graves' Sleep and Safety album. It's just a great, great version. It sounds great. It looks great. The quality of the entire release is amazing too. But here's the hype sticker for it. I'll get you guys a little bit of a better close-up. But 1,000 copies on ghastly green vinyl, which I think is it's awesome. And then there's a custom inner sleeve that came with it. And I think it was a good release. I did a Vinyl Thursday opening of this way back, fairly early on when I was doing Vinyl Thursday. And it was, I've loved it since then. This version of the album sounds absolutely incredible. But I wanted to pull it out and just kind of give you guys the quick and the dirty version of it. But there's the cover. Track listing on the back. Again, this is Real Gone music. So it's not Real Gone Records. It's Real Gone music. There's your answer. But this is Real Gone music's release of this. I think we did this in 2017. I'm pretty sure it was 2017. But this album is a lot of fun. It's one of, as far as LA punk goes, Los Angeles has a rich history when it comes to punk rock music. And I don't know that I would always call 45 Grave an overt punk band, but they were obviously heavily rooted in the genre. Maybe they had one foot in two different worlds as far as that goes. But it's punk rock and goth and death rock mixed together. But cool nonetheless. But this album is always a lot of fun. As far as that time in Los Angeles, TSOL was doing great stuff. 45 Grave, Black Flag, The Germs. Obviously, there's just, like I said, it's been a really rich history when it comes to Los Angeles and punk rock. But I love that picture of the band. I think Paul, the guitarist, Paul and Dinah are good at hamming it up, I think they were a good duo from a songwriting standpoint. I think they made it look fun. And Dinah still does. If you watch live footage of the band of, the last 10 years or so, you can tell she's enjoying what she's doing, which good for her. That's Awesome. Back cover again. And then it had an insert printed. Cool pictures of the band and yeah, like a little sort of like press bits, things like that. There's an awesome picture of Dinah. Super cool. And then I'll pull out this LP real quick. This thing is amazing. This, as far as what's in my collection from a colored vinyl standpoint, this is one of my favorite things in my collection. I absolutely adore it. Super cool looking. Here, let's get these out of the way. So it's not. There you go. Get a little bit of picture of the. You can see. Opaque, translucent. Well, translucent, which one is it? The one where the light can pass through and you can see through it a little bit. Looks like a bathroom glass in hotels, but still super cool nonetheless. I'll get a backlit photo for you guys so you can take a quick look at it. Label's super cool. And then we got the bat. Really neat version of this album. I think Real Gone Music does good stuff. Sounds good too. I know I mentioned that already, but yeah, this version of it sounds awesome. All right, up next, Straw Dogs. So the thing with this band is that I waited too damn long to dig into them. It's one of those times where you're kind of disappointed in yourself that you waited so long. I don't know why. I don't know. I think I probably just got caught up thinking about the Misfits and Judas Priest and Danzig and just got busy. But it's one of those times where kind of irritated with myself that I waited so damn long. But, is what it is, I guess. But, how I came to be aware of this band, it was through the movie and me recognizing that and there was, the one version has this song, the other version has the damn song Deadbeat Dance in that scene I was talking about earlier. And, I can't remember if I had like a crappy dubbed VHS copy of it or I bought it on DVD or I can't remember. But at some point I became aware that there were two different songs in that one scene, depending on whatever version you watched of the movie. So, I recognize that band sounds cool. Didn't have enough of it as far as what was in the scene to be able to really bite, into the band and kind of get into it. But over time, you do your due diligence, you start investigating things and, you find out about bands. And like I said, I'm kind of frustrated with myself that I waited so damn long to actually dive into the band. But, yeah, their catalog's great. There's a raucous quality to the Straw Dogs. They're rowdy, they make a lot of noise. One of those kind of bands. I always kind of think of the Stooges a little bit when it comes to the Straw Dogs. Not like a direct, note for note kind of comparison. They're not cut from the exact same cloth, but that rowdiness is there. And I think it's one of the things I've always appreciated about Iggy and the Stooges is that, I like how rowdy Iggy has always been. I think it's neat. It's one of the neat things about his catalog. And same thing with the Straw Dogs. They're just rowdy. I think Straw Dogs are just a badass rock and roll band. It is what it is. But I got this copy a while back and it's signed. I was looking for it on Discogs, came across it. I don't think there was anything in the description that talked about it being signed. But the bad thing is I have no idea who the hell signed it because I can't tell from the signature. It's just one of those things that I haven't, really dug into. I think I should for sure, but just haven't gotten around to it. But hype sticker just gives you a brief little rundown of what the band is like, that sort of thing. It mentions the FUs. The band they were before they had become Straw Dogs. It's a cool hype sticker. It's put out by Restless, which makes sense, given the movie and, just, punk rock, that sort of thing. It's a cool hype sticker with it. There's the cover. Like I said, I have no idea who the hell's signature that is. I'm presuming it's someone in the band, but I don't know. No idea who it could be. That could be a T. That could be a G. I don't fucking know. I don't know. But the cover's cool. Sort of a little bit of a Judas Priest kind of flair. There's the back cover. John Sachs, Steve Martin, Steve Grimes, Wayne Maestri. I think it's Maestri or Maestri. One of those. And then Bones on drums. Restless Records put this out. I think this was, I'm blanking on the year, 85-ish, I think. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But back cover is cool. And then no insert that I know of. I suppose, there might be one out there floating around that I just don't know about. But like I said, no insert that I'm aware of. But nothing super crazy about the actual LP itself. It's black. See if I can get rid of that reflection. Sorry. It's hard to do whenever I look at black vinyl on Vinyl Thursday because it's so reflective of the room. I don't want you guys staring at the ceiling fan spinning the whole time. But there you go. Trigger finger, skull garnish, tie your mother down. That's the Queen cover. I think I talked about that earlier in the episode. If I didn't, they cover Tie Your Mother Down, and it's a good cover. It's awesome. But that's side one. 33 RPM, by the way. They didn't use all of the wax. So it's short. It's a mini album. 5-song, I believe. Short EP sort of thing. And then there's the cover. Or the other side. In the Shadow of the Maker, and then Young Fast Iranians. But this is definitely, if you're into stuff like Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction era Guns N' Roses, Wasp, early Motley Crue, or even punk rock stuff, that was coming out of the East Coast in the early 80s, early to mid 80s, even stuff like the Cro-Mags. You might have something with Straw Dogs that you would be into. They're just a good, loud, fast, boisterous, raucous band. They're absolutely worth checking out. This is a good entry point into their catalog too. It's the very first thing they released as Straw Dogs. So this is a great starting point. And like I said, this is very affordable. Their catalog is super cheap. If you go hunt it down on Discogs, it's absolutely a great investment. And who knows, you might have something totally amazing happen like I did with this. I had no idea it was signed. So just wish I knew who the hell signed it. But still, very, very cool thing to have in my collection. All right, so the next one is this, what I believe to be a counterfeit version of the album. Not only does it include all of the songs that appear on the official soundtrack, but it also includes some of the actual music score that didn't make it to the soundtrack as well. So something to just, it's a noteworthy release. I thought it was pretty interesting. When it comes to counterfeits, sometimes you're walking a weird ethical line there, but I don't know. It just caught my eye. It was something that I decided, I kind of want that. But Happy Star Sounds, that's the label it was released on, and I've never came across a single other Happy Star Sounds release in all of my years of collecting records. So don't know what the hell's going on with them, but it is what it is. But interesting release in and of itself. The cover is cool. It's great. I was really striking, in my opinion. I thought it was awesome. When I saw it that first time, I just thought it was really great. But the interesting thing about it is that Trash is on the cover. Not one, not two, but 3 times. Trash is on the cover of the album. So I think that probably says everything you need to know as far as whoever did the cover illustration. But we got her leaning up against the gravestone from the scene she was talking about, her death fantasy. We have her post-strip scene over here on the left side, and then she's also at center stage. So I guess what a good feeling to be Linnea Quigley. So she made the cover 3 times. Good Lord. Still, the illustration is great. It looks amazing. There's the back cover. Pretty close to, or at least similar to, all the official releases that I've seen. But the weird thing about this one was there's a song by the Jet Black Berries, Love Underwill. It's on the actual LP itself, but it's not listed in the tracks. It opens up side 2, I believe, and it's just not on the jacket. I'll get you guys a close-up photo so you can see it, but what a jackass kind of miss. Because that song is amazing, and it sucks that, it didn't wind up on the back of the jacket, which, what a bummer. But there's your catalog number for it. HSS, Happy Star Sounds, 245. 245 trioxin, the chemical in the barrel. Which, that's cute. That's cute. But anyway, back cover's cool. They were brave enough to put a Orion Pictures logo on it with a barcode as well. So interesting choice for whoever put this out. But the LP in and of itself, nothing crazy. It's black. It feels like it's probably 110 grams. It's not double press. But one label's got an awesome picture of Tarman before he's Tarman, pre-Tarman. Then here's the other side. Cool looking label. Trash made the label too. Big day for Linnea Quigley. But a really great release if counterfeits are your thing. Like I said, I know that you're wading into there's an ethics conversation there that it's a weird conversation sometimes. I think once in a while, as audiophiles and record collectors, you're so smitten by a release or a version of a song or whatever the case is that sometimes, you like what you like and you go for it. I just wish, in an official sense, I just wish the official soundtrack had everything that music-wise the movie has to offer on it, which I think it's a missed opportunity, at least in my opinion. It's a missed opportunity. All right, up next is my OG CD copy. This thing has been with me for a long time. This is the MP3 rip of this CD is one of the things I always put on my phone whenever I get a new phone. It's mandatory. The only gripe I have about it now at this point is that a lot of those old, first and second wave CDs, they weren't mastered very, they're quiet. So the maximum volume that you can get out of this, whether it's the actual CD itself or an MP3 rip of it, you can't get it loud enough. And for me, when I'm listening to music, I want it loud. I've always been that way. Even with headphones, I want it as loud as I can get it, as long as I'm not hurting myself, when it comes to my hearing. But this is my go-to digital version of the album when I put it on my phone, that sort of thing. So Nothing crazy. It's pretty standard. Nothing super fancy about it. Restless Records released it. So as far as I know, this is 1985. But I could be wrong. But when it comes to CDs, I don't dig into the minutia of CDs the same way that I do vinyl. Generally, when it comes to CDs, the thing that I want is just the music. I love CDs. I have a ton. I have lots of them. But at the same time, I don't know. I just like the vinyls feel, I know I've described it before, but the act of holding, looking at, pulling out the LP, putting it on the turntable, letting it play, listening to it, reading credits. It's a bit more of an all-encompassing experience when it comes to vinyl over CDs, but doesn't mean I don't dig into, credits and lyrics and stuff from CDs, but that's, just I enjoy vinyl more, but it is what it is, I guess. And there's a good shot of the actual CD itself. Metal Blade Records on there, by the way. So food for thought. Pretty interesting. And it's a little heavier than what the average CD is now, I guess, post the 90s, I suppose. But yeah, it's the version I always put on my phone whenever I get a new phone. So there's the cover. Got some zombie action. Spray paint the tombstone. It's amazing. Here's the inside cover. Credits. Black and white zombies. Song track listing. And there's the other side. Again, pictures from the movie. And catalog number up there. Cool version of the album. Sounds good. Just quiet. That's the only real gripe I have with it now. There's two. I noticed as well, a lot of old CDs, you're going to get tape hiss that comes through. There's not a lot of hiss on this version of it. I can still pretty comfortably listen to it, and I don't feel like I've got a degraded quality, as far as like where they sourced the actual audio that's on here. My guess is that it came from the actual master of the album. Now, once you introduce iTunes, a couple decades down the road, stuff starts to get a little bit different as far as what releases are sourced from. But it still, to me, still sounds like a really quality audio version of the album. All right. The coup de grace, the coup de gracie. This is the Real Gone Music release of it. This is the red and black swirl. I love this version of the album. It sounds great too, by the way. But just a little glimpse, in case you guys are wondering. Obviously, with the stuff that I have that's valuable to me, I generally put a cardboard insert in with it, and then obviously a dust sleeve to take care of it. And then with Post-it notes, I'll put it on the back of the sleeve just so I have a quick reference for not only what version it is and what kind of grade that I gave it, in case there comes a day that I need to liquidate my entire collection, and it'll just make the process easier. I hope that day never comes, but just in case, it'll make things easier on the back end of stuff. But I really like this version. I think it came out awesome. There's another thing too. If you guys are wondering, I never put my LPs on the inside of the actual cover just so I can avoid ring wear. I've talked about this a lot in Vinyl Thursdays in the past, but if this is your first one, or if you haven't heard me talk about it in some episodes, you want to avoid ring wear. Ring wear is when you get the compression of the actual cover onto over the top of the LP itself, and if there's too much pressure, this will indent the actual cover and it'll cause a ring, an impression of the actual LP itself. It's called ring wear, and I hate it. It drives me nuts. I want to try to keep my stuff in as good of a condition as I possibly can. But the version of this cover too, I think it's worth mentioning that the printing of this came out great. A lot of times We have labels out there, not naming any names, but there are labels out there that do, I guess, what you would call, I don't know, heritage releases or legacy releases of older albums. And a lot of the time, the transfer, the digital scan or whatever you want to call it for the actual album, it just comes out terrible. It's blurry. It's enlarged too much. I have there's a couple Kiss releases that are bootlegs of live shows. And the pictures on the covers of them are, they're cool photos that you might know, but the resolution of the photo that they had access to was very high with a small version of the photo. And then when you blow that up, you lose not only, sharpness of the photo, you lose some contrast, and there's a blurry effect that happens, and it just doesn't look as good. Which speaking of Kiss, there's a notable release from someone that played in Kiss a while back, that there was a re-release of one of his solo albums, and the cover just looks like trash. It's terrible. I feel bad for the people that threw down, decent money to get a copy of it, and it's just a huge disappointment. But this version, up close, it's sharp. It looks great. It's a very, very good, transfer, I suppose, would be what you would call it, of the original cover of the album. It's sharp. The contrast is great. The color grading is amazing. It just looks awesome. So heads up. There's the back cover. Now that said, the front cover looks great. These photos from the actual movie and or movie set, these are a little blurry, to be honest with you guys. See if I can get you a good close up. Just not a lot of resolution on these. Fuzzy lines a little bit. From 3, 4, 5 feet away, it looks really good. But once you get it up close, you can really tell that they didn't turn out great. It is what it is. Track listing, credits, who's doing what on this release. So down here, worth noting too, that I know it says everything I came over for the Real Gone music info on the release. It was 2016. But when you look down here in the corner, 1985 copyright and 2015 Rykodisc Inc. Produced under license from Rykodisc Inc., manufactured by Rhino Entertainment Company and Warner Music Group Company, all rights reserved, made in USA, marketed by Real Gone Music, realgonemusic.com. So there's that. So what I'm guessing is that these jackets were probably printed in 2015, and then the actual release, once the LBs got pressed, it popped out in 2016. So something to just be aware of from if you're somebody that really pays attention to credits and dates and matrices on the actual LPs themselves, that sort of thing. It's something to think about. In the Kiss fan community, we see this with all those re-releases they did. I think it was 2016 of most of the Kiss catalog, and they made a ton of jackets. But the most recent releases are newer pressings, but those 2016 jackets, and it can be kind of confusing as far as trying to identify what version of the actual album you got. So it's just something to be mindful of. So heads up. This, I'm pretty sure, had a hype sticker with it, but for whatever reason, my hype sticker is nowhere to be found. So I'm a little disappointed in myself. But the hype stickers looked they look like this. I'll throw up a picture of it so you can actually see it. But I was bummed out that must have moved it. I'm guessing when my wife and I moved, we bought a new house 2 years ago. And in the move, I'm pretty meticulous when it comes to moving my music collection, but I must have not been meticulous enough. So I'm a little disappointed with myself, but That's what the actual hype sticker looks like. All right. Here is the red and black swirl. Boom. I think this thing came out great. It's not see-through, but it's cool as hell. And then these labels are striking. Like I said, I think those white and red and black labels look really good with that that sort of bluish green aqua looking color version of it. I think the red pops over the top of that blue. It's kind of, I've always liked that when since I was a kid. I used to draw like superheroes and stuff, and I always liked the combination of red and turquoise. Just thought it always looked really neat. But yeah, this thing came out great. You know, I love this album. I know I talked about it earlier in the episode, but man, oh man, am I thankful to have had this album in my life. Just definitely a high watermark in my punk rock exploration and goth and death rock exploration throughout my life. Just it's one of those albums where you're really thankful. You know, you got to know it and it's been in your life as far as from an audiophile standpoint. But really, really, really good album. And on top of that, too, you know, I think everybody knows pretty well that I'm a horror movie fan. And there's a big chunk of my music tastes that are informed by the horror movies that I like. And on top of, you know, the books I read, the literature I enjoy, the artwork I enjoy. I like the macabre. I like the occult, you know, if you will. It's one of those things that have always struck a chord with me. I was thinking about it the other day, and as I was writing the script to this episode, I was thinking about what is my favorite horror movie soundtrack. My favorite horror movie, full stop, period, no competition, is Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. Just, that is a absolute, it's in my opinion, it's a perfect movie. Even though there are little, you know, things here and there, like when Michael cuts the throat of Annie when she goes out to the garage to start the car, and she notices the windows are fogged up, and it's because Michael's sitting in the car waiting, just waiting for something to happen. There's no blood when he cuts Annie's throat, you know. But at the same time, too, there's no blood in Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I'm totally okay with that, just because it's, you know, there's decades apart when the movies were made, and the effects had, you know, the effects capabilities, you know, from a special effects standpoint had just, you know, off the charts compared to what it was when the Creature from the Black Lagoon was made. I don't know. I don't think it needs it, though. You know, I can't see in my head what the movie would be like if, you know, blood came fountaining out of Annie's neck, you know, that sort of thing. But still, it's a great movie. What I love about Halloween is, you know, well, I guess this is the Halloween episode now, but what I love about Halloween is that Michael teeters right on the edge of the supernatural, but you never really get 100% full confirmation that that's what's going on. There's just enough left unsaid, untold, unseen that you find yourself wondering. And especially when it comes to horror, one of the best parts about a lot of, I don't know, pillar staple horror movies is that those movies allow your mind to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So can Michael get from point A to point B in a flash? But it sure as hell seems like he can, which adds a whole nother layer of suspense and terror that you never know. It seems like he's sort of omnipresent. He's everywhere all at once without it necessarily, you know, you've given away, you know, the actual details of it. He's just, he's got that almost like a specter sort of ability to be somewhere and then gone, very, very quickly. So, like I said, teeters on the edge of the supernatural. Now, that said, what I like about Return of the Living Dead is that, I guess if you want to call the dead resurrecting and trying to eat people, part of the supernatural, okay, cool. But the entire movie is grounded in reality. What I think about is, when you look at a movie like, let's say, I don't know, what would be a good one? Maybe say The Exorcist. The Exorcist feels very fleshed out. And if you read the book, there's the big chunk of the plot in the book is that Damien spends a lot of time just via process of elimination to try and make 100% for sure that this is not demonic possession with what's going on with Reagan. He does a lot of research and does a lot of digging to try and get the answer that he's going to need to be able to either say, yes, we're going to take this, the actual exorcist route, and I'm going to take it all the way up, as far as the Catholic hierarchy. I don't even know what to call it, but and then eventually Damien realizes that, oh yeah, this looks like it's legit. After a long, prolonged period of him trying to, solve the problem and figure out what the hell is actually going on, because, and it's bolstered from a plot standpoint in the sense that Damien is struggling with his faith, all throughout the movie. His mother passes, and it's just a terrible situation for Damien because he feels like, why would this be happening? But versus Return of the Living Dead, they both feel like they're grounded in reality in the sense that everyone in the movie, but those two movies are reacting in a natural way to the situation that is unfolding in front of them. I think of when there's a scene in Return of the Living Dead where Chuck and Casey are running away from this crowd of zombies, and they run over to the medical supply warehouse, and Chuck opens the door for Casey. She runs in first. He gets in, slams the door shut, locks it, and then immediately asks, "Where's trash?" And I thought she went with the other group. And you can see there that it just appears to be genuine panic. The movie is acted very, very well in that regard. So it feels grounded in reality, even though you're dealing with the supernatural. So how that ties around to Halloween is that it's the same thing. Halloween, Laurie, Annie, Tommy Doyle, the little boy, Dr. Loomis, everyone is reacting to this situation. It feels like a genuine reaction. And that's what, not only it grounds it in reality, but having it grounded, at least in that sense, allows you to be able to make the sort of leap of faith, that suspension of disbelief. You don't even need to go through the process of suspension of disbelief, because it feels real in that sense. So that might just be me. That could be me, waxing poetic on, the greatness of the Return of the Living Dead, The Exorcist, and Halloween 78. It could be me just sort of gushing over it and being stupid. But to me, all three of those movies, that's why it makes so much damn sense. It's like, it feels real. If I was in this situation with my group of friends when I was, a teenager, early 20s, I would probably react the same way to all of this shit. I'd be just in a constant state of, what the fuck is going on? I'm freaking out, that sort of thing. So, and then on top of that too, I mentioned earlier that the ensemble cast, there's a chemistry between the group of friends, the young people, that it reminds me of my own life. When I was younger, I had a group of friends that, we got into so much shit. And it feels like my group of friends, in a way. So We hung out in graveyards too. What a cool little reference point to have when it comes to a movie that you really love. I think it kind of weaves that. It's a thread that's woven through a lot of my life, just getting into bullshit with your friends, especially when I was younger. So maybe it's a little bit autobiographical in that regard, but I never saw any zombies. But yeah. Anyway, great release, great score, great album, just a monstrosity of a movie. It sort of has all the things that I want in a movie. Great story, great acting, great special effects, feels grounded, the reactions feel natural, the music is absolutely astounding. The score, written for the times in between, the overt punk rock and, band music that's coming through. Just a truly a great intersection of lots of good ideas and great execution, all sort of interceding and colliding all at once. What a killer release. All right, folks, that's it. Have you watched The Return of the Living Dead? Do you love the soundtrack? Do you not love it? What's your favorite song? What song do you hate? Do you prefer George Romero zombies over The Return of the Living Dead zombies? All these questions and many, many more. There's a comment section. If you want to do that, you can subscribe, do whatever the fuck you want. You do you. And I'll see you next time.